Okay. Sorry for the weird camera angle, but I am backing up some things from my iPad to my computer. Maybe one day I'll have a better camera. Anyway, the reason for this video is I decided to go ahead and give my honest review on Kendrick's new album, To Pimp a Butterfly. Now, people have been arguing that this is his second album. Some people are saying it's his third. I've been following Kendrick for a while, so actually it is his third album, but this is his second major label album. First album would have been Section 80. Second album, Good Kid, Mad City. To Pimp a Butterfly is going to be the third album. So, before I get into this, people were hitting me up like the day that it came out, or like the next morning, and saying that this CD was a classic. There's no way that you can listen to one album in a day or so and call it a classic. You just can't do that. Especially when one of the people that said that the album was a classic gave me hell when I was mad that Kendrick Lamar didn't win Album of the Year on the Grammys. So you gonna tell me you listened to To Pimp a Butterfly and it gave you more of a vibe than Good Kid, Mad City? Nah, you can't say that. The second thing that I want to say is, if you're going into To Pimp a Butterfly and expecting to get anything that Kendrick has did before, it's not the same. If you listen to Section 80, it was conceptual, but it wasn't the same style as Good Kid, Mad City. If you listen to Good Kid, Mad City, it was conceptual, but it's not the same as To Pimp a Butterfly. Kendrick will not give you the same album twice. I'm sorry. You can't go into it thinking, oh, okay, well, I listen to Good Kid, Mad City, I want another album like that. Or you can't go into it expecting for him to give you the same type of album. Most people that talk to me like in that way, they haven't been following Kendrick as long or studying his music as long as me. So I just let them talk. But if you know Kendrick's music, it will never all sound the same. The third thing is, you have to listen to this album by yourself if you want to really get an understanding of the album, because when I first put the CD in, I had somebody else in the car with me, and they're really not just the biggest Kendrick fan, but he doesn't like the way Kendrick changes his voice, so he already went in it forming an opinion. And then Kendrick does do a lot of his, I guess, talking from his conscious mind, or talking as if he's somebody else, or talking as if he's talking to himself. So he hated that. And Kendrick really uses his voice as an instrument. If you know his music, his voice is like an instrument. Hell, I don't even understand how people can like and listen to Young Thug's music all day, because I couldn't ride around listening to Young Thug all day. It took me a while to get used to Young Thug. And his voice, I just heard somebody to say, is kind of like, say today that his voice is kind of like an instrument. I guess people like that, they use their voices in addition to just putting down words on a record. So you have to go into his CD with an open mind. You can't have anybody else around you that's doubtful, because they'll put that in your head. I had to, just to back up before I go into my review. When Take Care came out, Drake's album came out, my friend told me that she heard it was really sad. So when I put the album in, I was like, dang, this is a Dragon CD. And actually, Take Care ended up being one of my favorite CDs of Drake's. I think I've mostly liked all of Drake's CDs. Some of them have to grow on me, but CDs like that grow on you over time, usually end up having longevity as far as it goes for me, because if I don't pick up on the album right then and I go back and listen to it, I'll end up going back and listening to it, go back and listen to it, go back over years. It'll span from years. Anyway, let's just get into the Kendrick album. When I first listened to the entire CD, objectively, my first mind frame was that he made this album sort of like a scary movie. It reminded me of Tales from the Hood. It was like that old LA funk vibe, but it's kind of like horror. It's like dark. If you listen to 3-6 Mafia music back in the day, they were dark. If you listen to Tech 9, they give you dark music, dark hip hop. It's a whole different genre. It's not the same as the turn up music you hear in the club. It's not going to be the same vibe. It's like, it may not even be the same vibe as J. Cole's type of vibe, even though people like to put Kendrick and J. Cole in the same category. It's not that. It's like you're really watching a movie while you're listening to him. I decided to get under the influence and listen to the album, and I had to actually turn it off because it was kind of spooky to me. And it may not make sense to you if you haven't heard it or if you haven't listened to it the way I listened to it. It kind of scared me a little bit. Second thing with this album is I noticed that Kendrick will not do a lot of features. If he does features, it's either going to be somebody in TDE, it's going to be somebody from LA, or he's going to work with the same singers. He had a couple of tracks, maybe 2 or 3 tracks, with Bilal and Wise, who also performed with him. I cannot think of the name of the show. I keep forgetting the name of the show. But they performed this amazing song that I thought was going to be on the album, and it didn't end up being on the album. But they all performed together on that show. Maybe I'll come back later and I'll be able to tell you more. Second thing is, after listening to this CD, because I was a fan of Bilal back in the day. I went and listened to Bilal's album. Bilal's album, I think Dre may have produced some of that album. If you listen to Bilal's album, you will get the reason or the way or the thought process that Kendrick may have been in when he was making this album, because a lot of the same type of sounds, that old school kind of LA funk, and I won't even just say it's a LA funk, it's just that old school LA, like back when Dre and them was really hot, when you can tell, when you heard a song and you knew that was Dre, because he had a signature style. But anyway, the album kind of put me in that place, like I seen where Kendrick was going with it. My favorite song on this CD is let me look at my notes. It's the one that Pharrell produced, and I automatically knew it was a Pharrell production when I heard it, because it had Pharrell all over it. But let me find it. Let's see. And what is the name of the song? If I hadn't started talking, I would know the name of the song. Alright. That is my joint. That's like my favorite song. And I think that's probably the most mainstream song that he has on the album. My least favorite song was Complexion. I liked the beat, but I just didn't like them saying Zulu love. Like, I didn't get what that was about. I didn't like the For Free interlude, but I got what he was trying to say. Kendrick always has a strong message in whatever he's saying. Even when you think that he's talking about partying and drugs or how we party, he's taking that partying, he's taking that vibe and using it to explain something deeper, like a more deeper concept of consciousness. Like, this is what I'm doing, but is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this really where I'm supposed to be at this moment in my life? When I listened to this album, that's what I got out of it. Like, it kind of made me think about where I'm at in my life right now. And especially with this right now, this Dame Dash interview going around, which is a big thing. Even though Dame may come off ignorant or cocky or arrogant, and sometimes I don't know why maybe he's saying certain things, you hear something in their passion, or you hear something in what they're trying to tell you. It's kind of like a wake-up call. Like, it's like you never were able to read in your life. Like, let's just say you were a slave, and you never had the opportunity to read anything. You never could. You never knew your ABCs. You didn't know how to count. You didn't know how to add. And then one day somebody sat you down and told you, hey, I'll just say you never even knew books existed, because all you knew was work. So somebody sat you down one day and gave you a book, taught you how to read, taught you how to add and put things together. So at that moment, basically, your thought process is, well, dang, I know how to read now. I know how to add on, put two and two together. My whole life, what have I been doing? What if this is what it was, and this is information, and this is knowledge? What can I do with this knowledge? That's how Kendrick's album made me feel. Good Kid, Mad City didn't do that for me. Good Kid, Mad City was a chill vibe album I could listen to. Even though it was thought-provoking, this album had more of a wake-up. Like, I think Kendrick went a little bit deeper. I liked his honesty on this album. And Kendrick is never the one to call. I'm gonna say he's not gonna go and tell you what the next person is doing. Every time he's speaking and rapping, it's coming from his own experiences, his own wake-ups, which could help the next person, but it's always a reflection of himself. As an artist, I think that that's how people should be. It should be a reflection of you. It should never get lost in trying to appease everybody. Your art is your art. If I write a story, the story is coming from my creativity and my imagination, my mind. Even if it's non-fictional, it should only come from my experiences and what I've learned in life, in maybe my encounters with people. But I should never be able. I'm never gonna tell you, or never in my art, I'll say, display something that doesn't represent me. My art is my art. Just like Erykah Badu said a long time ago, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my Your art is your art. So whatever I'm thinking at the time, what I'm going through at the time, that's what I'm going to give you. You can like it. You might not like it. Some people hate this album. Some people think it's a classic. Some people think it's good. In my opinion, I think it's okay. I like what he's doing with this. I like where he's going with it. But what made me really like this album is the fact that what makes me like the album is the message behind the album. Purely the message. I like a lot of the songs. I like the instrumentation because I like that old school funk. I like the old school. I like California's vibe, period. I've always rocked with California's style of music. They always had their own sound to me. I like that. So I appreciated that. I appreciated him having Bilal on the album. I just think that I don't think it's a classic. I don't think that it came together like Good Kid, Mad City came together. And I know I said not to compare it, but the reason why I am saying that now is because I think that he had a good idea. He knew what he wanted to do with it. And maybe I'll go back later and listen to it and say, well, okay, yeah, it came together better than Good Kid, Mad City. But I don't think this time around it really came together like... and this is just his first time doing something like this. This is the first time since the Roots and in really mainstream hip-hop that I've heard a person put an album like this together. This is something that I would expect from the Roots because they put albums together that tell a story, but I'm standing on the street corner with my band and some drums, and I got the guitar open. If you want to give me $1, you can give me $1 type of way. Like, this is what this album sounded like to me. It was kind of like a poetry slam / talent show. Like, let me get up here and give you my poetry, and then we're gonna throw some songs in the meantime, like an open mic night. That's what it reminds me of. Besides this being, I think the reason why I will give this album a good good review or say that it was good is because it seemed like a freaking movie. Like, I've never really heard anything where I feel like I'm watching, like, while he's rapping, I'm watching what he's saying. Like, it's kind of like my friend Johnny told me this. It's like when he listened to Kanye album, which I did not like Kanye album at first, the Yeezus album. When he listened to it, it was like he was telling me that he saw him like painting this. He painted this. He was just throwing stuff on the wall. Well, in this album, I'm watching everything he's saying. Like, I can see everything that he's saying in my head. I'm there. Like, there was this whole story going on in my head. Like, I'm watching a movie while I'm listening to it. At any rate, I think that the sound of, if you listen to some underground hip hop, I'm not talking about what they play on the radio. If you listen to a lot of underground hip hop, that's where the sound is kind of leaning towards. They're leaning towards more, I guess, instrumentation and mixing all of that in together versus just playing, somebody threw you a beat and I'm going to rap over the beat and rhyme some words. Some people albums, now you'll get it, they'll just throw you an instrumental in between a couple of the records. So my opinion on this album is it has the potential to be a great album and to be an inspiration for other artists who don't mind stepping outside of the box. But it's not classic yet to me. I cannot call it a classic. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I've already talked to a few of my hip-hop heads about this album. But y'all let me know what y'all think. And I probably could have added some points. Next time I do one of these reviews, I'm going to probably get a little bit more detail. But this is just my first time doing this. So y'all give me y'all feedback. All right.